always wanted to be an investor? Well, I've got news for you. I have been investing in real estate in the state of Idaho for 20 years, and I have learned a lot along the way and made a lot of mistakes. So right now I'm going to share with you 5 tips that are related to my real estate investing regrets. Tip number 1, when I think back on my real estate regrets, is to not let fear get in your way for advancing. When we were first very seriously investing in real estate, it was an optimum time in the buying cycle, and there were so many to choose from, and we were very meticulous in looking at our numbers and what was going to work and what wasn't. And there's a number of things that would have worked really well in hindsight, but I stopped and walked away from those deals because of fear. See, at the time I was listening to news, I somehow got in my head that real estate was riskier than it was at that time, and I didn't trust the numbers, didn't trust my judgment, and I let fear get in the way, and I turned down a lot of deals that I look back on, and so much do I wish that I owned those properties today. So don't let fear get the best of you, and please try to avoid national news sources when you're investing in real estate, and pay attention to those that have actually been there, done that, gone before you, and can teach you how to successfully invest in real estate and minimize that risk. Tip number 2, that is a regret of mine that I don't want you to have to go through, is have disorganized finances. When I first got started in real estate investing, it was very much a side hustle and journey for my husband and myself. And we played the game where you put everything in a box, as in all the receipts, and you figured out at the end of the year. And we had spreadsheets that we kept some way up to date. But if I were to go back and start my real estate journey again, I would definitely be more organized from the get-go. You know, today we've got online QuickBooks, we've got a great bookkeeping team. All of that is in place. But we had to work backwards, and had many years where we had moments of panic come February, and we were trying to gather all of our receipts, all of our resources to be able to make sure that we had all of our ducks in a row, and we made it way more complicated on ourselves. Now, tip number 3 that I want to share with you, that's one of my real estate regrets, is I did have a couple of instances where I really let emotion get the best of me. When you're real estate investing and you're making those purchases, it cannot be emotional purchase. It needs to be based on the numbers and what your long-term goals and objectives are. I had a couple of times, especially when the market was really hot, and went ahead forward with purchases that didn't make very much sense financially. So in this case, I was more of the extreme. You know, the market was hot. I was following that fear of missing out. The market was just going to go up and up, even though I knew logically as an agent that markets do not always rise indefinitely. It all worked out in the end, and so things that I purchased that went down in value for years and years after purchase, they've since risen, and all is good. The other key note to remember on that is no matter what you purchase at, if you're at least covering your cost of your mortgage, your tenant is paying your entire mortgage off, and so the risk is not as big as we think in our head, as long as we have it successfully secured as far as a good tenant in place. Tip 4 that I would have you, that's one of my real estate regrets, is selling at a time where I look back at it, I probably didn't need to sell. I'm definitely a buy and hold investor through and through, and there are 4 instances in which I sold properties. One was, a couple of them were just a big old pain to manage, and in retrospect, what I probably should have done is hired a great property manager just to take care of those properties. A couple of other times, they were great properties, but we needed some cash for other projects, and so I went ahead and sold them. But if I would have had all the resources I have today, I would have known that I could have done a cash out refi, pulled equity out of those properties, and used that cash for the other projects. And if you're thinking of selling a property, to really look closely at your overall objectives, it may be the right move for you. But if it's not, there are other options in which you could probably pull out cash in which to make those other purchases. The other thing that has not happened to me personally, but I do want to mention related to that, if you're living in a primary home and you're thinking of selling it to purchase maybe a couple of other rental properties, look closely, and I would work with your lender to find out if you can keep your current home and then go ahead and purchase the rental properties in addition and keep your current home as a rental property. The ones that I've done that with, I've been super glad. And sometimes it makes it the best rental property to manage because nobody knows that property more than you who's lived in the home. The fifth tip that I have for you today: don't have a tenant screening failure. I actually have a very good screening process in place. I've even been guests on podcasts on how to properly screen tenant, but there are two instances that I can think of where I went against my better judgment and veered from my tenant screening process, and I made exceptions and I listened to sob stories and I got burned. I want you to know that the tenant screening processes are in place for a reason, and there's some really simple things you can do to mitigate any overly overt risk. For instance, make sure you call not one, but two landlords back, because the current landlord could be trying to offload their tenant to somebody else because they're a problem tenant. The other thing that I would never skimp on in the future is making sure that you're getting verified employment resources and assurance that that person is intended to be employed for the foreseeable future. So there you have it. Those are my 5 tips for my real estate investing regrets, and hopefully by sharing a little bit of this, you can avoid them and move forward with confidence. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Reach out to us directly. I'm at 208-608-4884. Please, if you got value from this content, like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell so that you know about future videos. And I am excited to see your investing journey come to fruition.